Hi, everybody. Welcome to Shires TV. My name is Samantha Lane, and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for SE Shires. We're bringing you another amazing installment and a special edition of Shires TV on this Monday evening so that we can accommodate the busy schedules of our artists who are in the New York Philharmonic. So we are totally thrilled. This is a special treat for us to get all three of these giants in the same Zoom room. And broadcasting to you guys live so that we can take some of your questions. We can chat about some things related to trombone performance and pedagogy and equipment and whatever else comes up. But thank you for tuning in. Just a quick little reminder, if you have a question for our panelists, I'm keeping an eye on the Facebook comment section, so feel free to post it there, and I will do my best to grab it if we don't get to everything tonight. Always feel free to write us at info@shires.com if you do have a question. And I will be linking some special links for all of our artists who are on here with some of their websites and some of the recordings, and also links to their own SE Shires artist models. So stay tuned for that. But without further ado, I'm really, really excited to be able to say that this is actually our first event where we've had everybody together. I was hoping that we'd be able to do it in person at some point, but this is pretty good for now. So thank you to Shires Artist Joseph Alessi, Colin Williams, and George Curran, all members of the New York Philharmonic, all SE Shires artists, all wonderful teachers, soloists, and the whole gamut. So I'm going to turn it over to each of you just really quick to let us know a little bit about yourselves, your career with the orchestra, how long have you been in, and what are some of the things that you do outside of the orchestra for your performing careers? And whoever wants to start. Joe? Joe? All right, Colin, you're up then, buddy.
Okay, so I think I'm the out of this group, obviously the most recent arrival at the New York Philharmonic. I think 5 years seems about right that I've been with the orchestra.
Years?
What's that?
Already 5 years.
Yep, already 5
That's
years.
incredible.
Yep, seems like just yesterday. I did sub a bit with the orchestra for the year or two before that because of some stuff that was going on with the Atlanta Symphony. But for me, it's been really like it feels like coming home in a lot of ways, you know, and the New York Philharmonic was the orchestra that really inspired me to be interested in orchestral music. And one of the really sad things right now is the piece that really got me fired up about playing and trying to see what an orchestra could do was the recording that the New York Philharmonic did of Mahler's Second Symphony with Leonard Bernstein, you know, and one of the really fun connections in my life is the fact that not only did that make me want to go to study in New York, and I got to study at first at Manhattan School of Music with David Finlayson, and then later on at Juilliard with Joe Alessi, go off and do some other things, and then come back to this orchestra. We were going to play Mahler 2 this year, you know, at the Mahler Festival in Amsterdam, and that to me was going to be sort of like to this point really like the pinnacle of my personal and professional life, was to be able to not only play, you know, this phenomenal piece of music that inspired me to pursue music as a vocation, but to do it not only with, you know, two of my mentors, with the orchestra that inspired me to play, but also George Curran and I played together for many years in the Atlanta Symphony. You know, he was a groomsman at my wedding, you know, and so to be able to, and Chris Martin even, you know, best man at my wedding, who's now playing principal trumpet in the New York Philharmonic, this incredibly unbelievably, like you never think it could really happen kind of coincidences, bringing all those people and things together for me, was going to make this, you know, the fact that we're doing this via Zoom hurts a little bit more, but it's one of the things that I really love about being able to play, even as one of the newest members of the Philharmonic, to be able to play with Joe and with George. You know, it's just one of those things. So I know I went a little bit off topic there, but I want to explain one of the things that I think makes this section so special to me is not only is it just an absolutely incredible, you know, George and Joe and David, I mean, just phenomenal players. But on top of that, the extra significance of how meaningful it is for me to have their friendship, mentorship, and everything that goes along with that over the years, to have it all together in one is truly, it just doesn't ever really get to happen. So makes it really bittersweet that we have to do this now, but it's still great to see everyone.
Yeah, Yeah. And what about outside of the orchestra? You're busy teaching at a few schools, and you have a busy.
Yeah, yeah. So I teach at Manhattan School of Music. We had our Zoom finals the other day. Really sad to see a lot of. I think I actually had 7 students leaving this year, but really excited about the students who are coming in next year. We're still going to try to do the Southeast Trombone Symposium this year. We're going to do it online and appropriately socially distanced.
And we'll check that too. I want to make sure we cover that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. It's generally trying to do our best to stay busy and to you know to not just put the trombone on a shelf and be sad.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, thank you. That's awesome. George, who's next? Who wants to give a quick call?
George was going to go next.
Joe always knows these things about the section.
He does.
Yeah, yeah. It was Colin and I are the same age, and so for a lot of us who were in school and in our young professional lives of our age, those old Bernstein recordings with the Philharmonic were some of the really most influential of the new recordings for us. They were new at the time anyway, and yeah. So I mean, doing Mahler first and second, and Shostakovich, and a lot of other great stuff on this tour was certainly a big bummer as part of the side effects of coronavirus. But yeah, Colin and I played for I think 6 years in Atlanta, and I met him, there, and then we moved up here to New York, or I guess I'm not in New York right now. I'm in
Michigan, right?
I'm in Michigan with
Yeah.
With family, but we moved up to New York, and that was just such a fortuitous, chain of events that happened to have all these people that I knew migrate, and so that was a really special thing to have happen. We were a great section and really good friends in Atlanta when we were playing together. But to be able to have people move around together is very unusual. Just for the openings to happen, much less that they would win the audition. So, and I had really appreciated Joe and Dave's playing from afar, and now they're telling me what to do. So, so now Joe and Colin and David, even David, are just amazing colleagues and section mates. We're sort of, I feel like, in a really lucky spot, because I mean, you hear about these sections where people don't talk to each other and we get together. I mean, we all have busy lives, so we don't get together as much as we probably would have, when we were younger and our lives were simpler. But we really enjoy playing together. I think we have a similar concept of ideas of sound and musicality, and yeah. And so I'm looking forward to making a drive down to Atlanta, and doing the symposium down there at the beginning of August. That's going to be really fun. We've all had to sort of improvise how this is going to look like for our quarantined musician, status right now. So I think all of us have been doing some online teaching. Certainly, I teach at Manhattan School and have a couple of good guys that are coming in. I've got a couple of students at Manus. We divide a lot of the lessons up there, so it works out to be about 2, and then usually about four to 5 at Rutgers. I'd make the drive out there, and that was the school I went. I at the time I was at the end of my schooling. I was working on an artist diploma at Rutgers, studying with John Rojak, and now I'm in his shoes as best as I can. So it's very cool to do that too. So we're doing our teaching. We're teaching online. I'm working on an online seminar that is going to be happening in middle of July, and going to bring in some special guests for that too. So that's still not 100% worked out. So you should be finding out details in it.
News too. As soon as you have all the details, we'll share it on the Shires pages so people have more info.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people are doing this. They're working and making product. Whether it's playing or teaching or just getting themselves out there. And I think all of us who've been very busy with the symphonic and teaching life are figuring out how to do it like on a very fast learning curve right now online. So I think everybody's dealing with this. I mean, so in all the professions, not just music. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
You're totally right. Totally right.
Hey, Joe, you're running out of people.
I know, Joe. It's all up to you. Nobody wants to hear from me.
Well, yeah, thanks for hosting this. And yeah, I was listening to what Colin and George had to say, and I can tell you that David and I have been there, the longest. Um, and over the years, we've gotten to work with some great colleagues. Nitsan Heroes early on, and Jim Markey, and we had some guest people come in. Jürgen von Rijn played with us for a year, and Daniele Morandini for a year, and Lisa Albrecht. And anyway, Dave and I always said that, in the audition process when it would happen throughout the years, that we always wanted to get the highest quality musicians in the section, and we're very blessed because we have Colin and George there, and when I go to work and play with these gentlemen, great artists, I find that it's I've been in the orchestra now starting my 36th year, but I can tell you that when I go into work, I'm just really inspired to play with these guys. Their level of commitment and artistry to and then professionalism is just off the charts. And so I'm very blessed because when I leave someday, and these gentlemen will still be in the section, I assume, unless they go somewhere else. But it's the level of playing is going to be the level of the section, and low brass playing is set for the years to come, for a long time. So it's very, very, very happy that they chose to come to New York, and it's great. So I can't say more superlatives about them and their playing.
Checks in the mail.
I was going to say, how much did they offer you for that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as an outsider looking in, the work that you guys and David have done in the trombone section and your colleagues in the trumpet and the tuba and the French horns, I mean, it's entirely redefined brass playing in America, and it's become such a staple for so many people. So it's a treat. I mean, we have a whole bunch of viewers who are on right now just soaking up some of these like little stories that you guys are even just doing in our quick introductions, let alone until we get into like the juicy stuff.
Sure. Well, I got some juicy stories about Mahler second.
Yeah, do it. I would
a little about that.
please.
Should I say now?
Go ahead. Yeah, sounds great.
Well, it was a real long night for me one night. As you can see right behind me, there's Leonard Bernstein right there on the wall, and he signed a nice inscription there. And anyway, Zubin's right below him, and then Riccardo Muti. Anyway, but there was one night, I live up here in Rockland County, and it's about normally a 45-minute drive. So I left for the Mahler second with Leonard Bernstein at my normal time, and I have to cross the George Washington Bridge. I live on the west side of the Hudson River, and so I got to the bridge, and there was a huge traffic jam. I mean, it was insane. And I still got to the bridge about 7 o'clock, so that's still an hour to go, and I'm only 8 miles away or something like that, So I heard on the radio that there was some metal columns, heavy steel columns that hold up a section of a build. They hold up a whole building actually, and one of those had cracked, and the traffic goes right under this building. and so nobody could go underneath this I-95 small corridor, and all the cars had to go off onto local streets. So I panicked. I said, boy, this is Mahler's second. I know that I can make it if I ditch my car on the New Jersey side and I'll just walk across a bridge. How simple could that be? And I get on the subway, the A train, that takes 20 minutes. So even if it takes me 30 minutes to cross the bridge by foot, okay, I know that I will make the downbeat at 8 o'clock.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the funny thing about it is I had my horn with me, and I think I had maybe my tails pants on. So I start walking across the bridge. I managed to ditch my car in New Jersey side, and I started walking across the bridge, and I realized this bridge is really long. I mean, I'm not going to use any profanity, how long it was, but I was not even halfway across, and it was already 15 minutes I'd been on the bridge, just that. So I started running, I want to make sure, because 7:30, if I get on the A train, no problem. So I started running, and when I got halfway across, all the traffic started moving again. I was really, yeah, this is a really horrible night. So anyway, I got to the on the other side, and 7:30 got in a train, no problem. I knew I'd be fine. I started to relax. Right between the stations, the train stopped, and we stopped. We had no cell phone. We stopped probably for at least 10 or 15 minutes. And now I'm really getting worried. And so anyway, I got off at Columbus Circle. It's just after 8 o'clock. I'm totally exhausted, sweat. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I got to the hall 10 minutes after 8, and I thought for sure I would hear the orchestra playing, and there was nothing, silence. Anyway, that night I was the last person to get in the building. There were other people that were late too, but anyway, I just thought you'd find that interesting. That was, I did make the show, and I played the whole
Wild.
too. You know, I did miss the performance at least.
That's crazy. It's funny to hear like the idolization of Colin talking about Mahler too, and then Joe's like, well.
Yeah. Well, Colin was probably at that performance.
I think I was like in fourth grade.
No, you weren't.
That's so wild.
Really?
You have to talk. It's 1985, right?
Of course. You were in fourth grade. That's right. Lost track of time. Anyway, that's kind of that was definitely a weird night.
I guess suffice to say, you guys have some pretty interesting experiences and opportunities in the orchestra, whether it's in your home court in New York or you're traveling on tour and playing in some of these like amazing venues throughout the world. Like the range of conductors that you guys have all worked with, the repertoire that you've done, it's a pretty unique gig for sure.
Yeah. Jaap van Smeden is our music director, and I was like Colin said, I was really looking forward to Mahler too, because I think that would have been a special show, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But lately, well, there's a lot of new conductors, to be honest, that I don't really know much about. I've seen them one time, but there are some really talented conductors out there, and there's conductors that are sort of, you could see them once and that's about it. I
Right.
won't name any names, but
we actually just had a great question that came in about conductors. Greg was asking, do you change the way that you approach music depending on the conductor in front of you? And how collaborative is it in a rehearsal setting with different conductors?
George?
Well, you get me. Let me have the easy question. Well, no conductors are watching this, I'm pretty sure, but no. It's interesting. I feel very lucky that we get a chance to play some of these pieces so many times, to be honest, because every conductor will want it differently, and some conductors are used to maybe a different decibel level than the Philharmonic is used to playing. And so even if, because we're playing a really, really large space, and so the orchestra plays a bit more athletically than some, and and so some conductors who are maybe used to maybe a smaller sound, and certainly a smaller brass sound. A lot of great European conductors are great, but they are just used to a sort of a different aesthetic. It takes them a little bit of time to get used to us. But I think a lot of the first instincts at times is to tell us that we're playing too loud, and maybe we are at times playing too loud, but but we listen. We do our very best to do to we'll play the way you want us to play, because my point of view is, or my perspective is, I feel lucky enough I'm going to possibly play this again next year or in a couple of years, and at least in the first rehearsal you get to play it however you want to. At least that's what David says.
It's our one freebie.
Yeah, and and we have to all be on the same.
David does say that. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
pretty funny.
he's not here to defend himself, but like the brass section has to really be able to hear each other. So we can't have one section saying that we're going to do what we want.
Right.
And so we're pretty collaborative up and down the section. And we don't have as many rehearsals as we did back when we were in school. And so we have to put it together pretty quickly. And oftentimes the conductors will spend a lot more time on the slow movement or the scherzo, or the spots where there's really tricky wind and string playing, and we'll get oftentimes one run through or two run throughs before the actual show, and if it's close enough, then they usually say, well, they'll figure it out. A lot of people don't give huge amounts of instruction, but then some people have very particular opinions. So we, as much as we have our own opinions, and the higher up the food chain you kind of go, the more strongly defended those opinions are, I think. And so, I mean, I don't know how Joe feels about that, but I think that's we do our best to accommodate the person who is directing traffic for everybody on stage.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. You otherwise it gets really messy, with and you got to respect, what the conductor is telling you at any time. I've seen brass players not explode, but get very upset at conductors, saying to play less, to the point where you're not even playing.
Mm.
I know some players who stop playing. So a conductor says, "Hey, softer, 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 softer," in a not in a chorale or anything, just playing tutti, together. And I mean, I never go that far. I don't go that far. I'll play soft and say, okay, let's just enjoy ourselves and play soft and relax and take it easy. And so some people get a little offended at that. But I don't see it as anything except what George says, which is conductors are used to a different sound from where they're from, or they have a different sound concept of the balance of the orchestra. I'm doing a lot of mixing right now, with mixing different things. I'm learning editing, and you can mix. Depending on your taste, you can mix something. Whether you want more trombones or less trombones, or whatever. And so it's kind of like a mixer. The conductor's a mixer, sort of, and everybody has a different opinion about that.
Yeah, for sure.
The conductors we just work with in March, before this all happened, was Gergiev, the great Russian conductor.
Ah.
And we were doing a piece. Remember the piece we were doing, George?
It was there was the Petrushka and Firebird, and then this piece by Schnedrin, I think. That
Shedrin. Yeah, that was a interesting piece. But
we left that dress rehearsal, and I got out of the subway on the way home, the A train, and found out that we didn't need to come back. That was, I think it was March 12th. We had done the dress rehearsal, and the concert was supposed to be that night, and they said we're canceled.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Quite the
we were all having a good time, playing this piece, and Gergiev was enjoying himself, I think. And then just before that, we had Franz Welser Most come, and he hasn't. He's only come one other time, I think, during my time there. But we did a really wacky piece. Again, I do you remember what it was, George? Again, I can't remember the name.
Oh, no, I'm remembering. It's Vidman.
Oh, Vidman. Yeah, Widman.
Okay.
Yeah,
And and talk about some wicked trombone parts. It was four trombone parts,
Okay.
and just wicked writing and a mute change every 5 seconds
Gotta keep you on your toes for sure.
to a different mute,
Yeah.
and then just insane stuff. So those were some good concerts, though.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
also did what was the big piece with Franz Welser Most, George? We did
That was Sinfonia Domestica.
oh, some Symphonia
Nice.
Domestica.
Yeah.
The
We
Sinfonia
haven't,
Domestica.
yeah, we haven't done that. I mean, we haven't done that very much. We did a lot with Zubin Mehta,
Sure.
and we also did it with Slatkin. And there's a nice bootleg recording of that is around. Maybe some student took it or something, but um, not of course distributed it anywhere. But I have a copy of that, and man, that what a great performance that was. So
Sure.
and this other performance too. Anytime you do Symphony Domestica, you should be thankful because it doesn't come up that often.
That was my first time playing that too. Yeah, it isn't very common, and I knew that these guys in the section had played it a lot, so it's kind of hair raising sometimes when you sit in knowing this is your first run through of something, and got Albert on one side, and Joe and Colin and David looking over on the other side, and as much preparation as you do, there's always some little surprises about balance or something that aren't quite the way you thought that they'd be. So I always, I really try extra hard to prepare for pieces that I think I know, even though I haven't played.
Sure.
That Vidman piece, before we let go of that piece, that had four trombones, but the bottom two trombones were doubling bass trombone, doubling on contra. So Colin was actually,
That was the piece that Colin was going to be doing bass on.
yeah, he was. I went back and forth, and he played bass and a couple of passages on contra,
Hmm.
and then he also had a tenor because the last section of the
We were talking
Vidman
about you, Colin.
was about 5 lines all in tenor clef. So that was and it was just this long sustained slow chorale. So it's a cool piece. Certainly, like not maybe like,
Oh, you're talking about the Babylon thing?
yeah, Babylon Suite
Babylon,
by
that's
Vidman.
it.
Yeah.
So this actually brings us to a really good question that somebody had asked, which is somebody wrote in asking about endurance and preparing for like big long hauls of symphonic playing. So if you've gone from a pretty light week where it's not like a heavy hitting kind of session into a strong kind of setup like what you guys are talking about with Vidman stuff, how do you individually prepare? What are a couple tips that you have for building up endurance for a big piece like that?
Well, I'll just say, I think we're like one day. Each of us are one day away from being in the top shape that you could be in. Okay, so what that means is, I mean, maybe not now, but but
Yeah.
in normal working weeks when we're working and we're concertizing and we're working on solos and we're you're just if there's a big program that's coming, I don't sit there and practice every single bar of the piece. You kind of, if the very first rehearsal, you might feel a little fatigued, but just that fatigue that you feel, always and pretty much every time, the next day I feel stronger, and then I'm by the time the concert comes around, I've built up enough endurance for that program.
Yeah.
So there are times when, boy, you're really playing a lot, and you come into the first rehearsal and it doesn't matter what they throw at you. You know, you're fine. But for the days you're not quite you know, used to that kind of endurance, it just takes like one day to get back into it. I think.
Yeah, okay.
Would you
That's
say that's
encouraging.
true, Colin?
Yeah, I find that to be true. First of all, sorry I had to hop off there. But I find that for me, I go through a lot of different positions within the section, and that also sort of changes the way my endurance works. So if I've been doing some stuff where I've been doing some second trombone playing or some bass trombone playing, and then I have to move over to principal, I will say that does take some adjustment for me. I feel like it takes just like a day to like get back into that kind of playing. It's very,
Both like chop and mental, or
yeah, chop and mental. There's certain, like, just making sure that you're. For me, I think about sort of what part of the overtones am I going to be aiming for. There's certain kinds of sounds that I feel like I need to adapt or have available when I'm playing second, when I'm playing bass, of course, and when I'm playing principal. I don't feel like the same sound is going to work all the way up and down the section, and that requires, from me, just sort of different ways of practicing in terms of how I think about my long tones, how I think about but even it's just sort of how I'm getting set up in the orchestra sort of changes a little bit depending on where I have to be. And so if I've been sitting a little bit lower for a little while, then yeah, just it takes like a day or two to sort of like kick back up into feeling like really on top and strong on the first parts again.
yeah.
And I think it's sort of analogous to if you've had a quiet couple weeks, it might be that you need a rehearsal of really blowing to sort of get back into it. To sort of feel that strength again.
Well, we're definitely in a good position as far as staying in shape, right? Like, from week to week, it might be. I mean, I was looking at a stretch of the schedule where it was something like we got canceled on the Stravinsky week, but we did the Widman and Sinfonia Domestica, but that was right after like Bruckner 4, which is right after like I can't even remember. It was like a long stretch of heavy hitters all in a row, and so you try to on those kind of weeks or days when you've got teaching scheduled, you try to maybe play a little less, and then other times you can afford to play a little bit more. But some people in other orchestras that maybe have some lighter schedules. I know certainly some of the European orchestras are going to stress more, of the traditional European repertoire more. Earlier romantic, classical stuff, and or if you're in school, you don't necessarily have a heavy hitter every week, depending on where you're going. And so certainly it's important to structure your practicing so that when you've got bigger pieces, that you're not just going to be walking into those cold. And to give yourself some time, you want to make sure you're not walking in to a Bruckner symphony, for example, where you've got to just lean on the horn and the air and really put a lot of pressure on the chops for sustained bits. You want to get a nice good warm up so you're loose, but at the same time you don't need to stress about it. Certainly the younger kids can usually recover pretty quickly from a lot of things, but you don't want to overstay your welcome on that. But
I'd just like to add a couple things to
Yeah.
that. The best thing that students can do, or anybody, for endurance, is play in a trombone quartet. Play in a trombone quartet. I remember early on in high school, I got invited to play in some pretty good trombone quartets in the San Francisco Bay Area with great players, and I was always amazed at the first player. There's one guy who always kind of played first most of the time, and just to see that happen. And I've always been fascinated with how in the trombone quartet especially, but you're playing all the time, even if you're playing an inner part, and so if anybody wants to build up good chops, playing a trombone quartet. Now, of course, now you can't do that, but
You were talking about how you were encouraging people to record some of the inner parts to duets and quartets and stuff like that too in our last chat.
yeah, there's going to be periods of rest when you do that, but that's the best thing you could do. And then the other thing is just one other thing about endurance. You got to stay hydrated, so if you're dried out, you get tired faster, I think. So you know, if you're gonna, you need to have just drink water a lot, and that really helps your endurance, I think.
Yeah.
I think the bass trombone players who are listening to this thought you meant something else when you said stay high.
Oh
Bass
yeah,
trombone players always think
for
that.
you, for George, yeah, yeah, especially.
Very hydrated.
So we had another question that was written in about like concept of sound, like trombone section sound. So in the orchestra, you guys have been playing for quite a while together already. But can you describe like what you hear or what you envision when you think about how a trombone low brass section should sound in an orchestra? It's a pretty vague question, but
What Joe says.
what Joe says, yeah.
Yeah. No, I can tell you what my experience is like.
Yeah.
You know, again, just because it's kind of the funny being able to sort of travel up and down the section. But one thing that I love about this trombone section is that, you know, each of us individually have our own sounds and approaches. You know, I think that that's one of the really cool things is that, and one thing I've learned as trying to sort of do some overdub things on myself, I think that one of the really amazing things is that trombones, 4 different trombone players sound better than the same person playing the same part all the time. There's something about having these sort of differences in your sound and the overtone makeup and the way that you put pressure on the sound when together interact in a way that is much greater than the sum of the parts. And so when I'm playing in the Philharmonic section, there is something that is really special about the way that these guys play when I'm in the middle of it that I can, there's the way their overtones react, the way that their pitch reacts. I sort of can feel exactly where I need to get the sound into the middle of that to create the maximum amount of buzz and resonance. And that is something that I find has been super unique about this situation for me. You know, it is there's a really special sound that's created when Joe and Dave and George play together. But there's also a really, really fascinating, interesting sound that happens when I get to play with David or with Joe, you know, and it's still the New York Philharmonic, even if it's slightly different shades. And I think that's a testament to sort of the way that we all work together and think about sound and think about projection and just listen in.
I gotta say too, like one of my favorite days at work ever, or just being a brass player ever, was being in the hall, hearing you guys up on stage, subbing in and out of different excerpts and like little duet, trio, quartet stuff. The 3 of you plus David. I mean, it was the coolest thing to see how there are those like little shifts in color, but it still absolutely sounds like the New York Philharmonic. And it was just like, it was the best day. It was awesome.
To me, low brass, a great low brass section is like an organ. You know, so we got, you know, an organ pipe, you know, the top pipe has a different shape to it, and the bottom pipe has a different shape. And anyway, and plus the organ itself on the console, you have all kinds of stops you can use, and you know these stops produce, you know, different colors and so forth. And so when you have all these colors, like Colin said, coming together, you know, it should sound like an organ, a great organ. And of course, the pitch in this ensemble is amazing. You know, the great pitch, and that the overtones that we create with the intonation is also, you know, a very important aspect of a great section.
Yeah, I'm fortunate to have you know had both Colin and David as my, or Colin and Joe as my principals. You know, both in Atlanta, Colin was full time and Joe was full time. But you know, Colin is always, you know, on you know, a good percentage of the time is playing principal, and it's been really nice to get extended periods of time playing with both of you. And you both lead the sections a little differently, you know, just like every player will. But you know, I think that sitting sort of in the meat of the section is really fun for me. I feel like it's where my musical brain works the best, and you know, like that I want to allow the top player to really be able to lead in the color and the style of the sound, so, and be able to play easily with the principal trumpet or the principal horn or whoever that they're going toward, and also be, you know, whoever's playing second and then me playing third usually, are the bridge down to the bottom, or maybe they're just the three of us and no tuba. You know, and that's actually really fun to be the bass on my own. You know, to be able to spread out a little bit and not have to worry about Al, you know, bumping into his tuba. But you know, the balance between being in the trombone section and then being, you know, matching up with the tuba sound is really is a really you know, it's difficult. It's, you know, from note to note even, you can feel like you have to go different directions with your ears. You know, I think that I try to match the trombone sound as much as I can, because I feel like that is the most easily identifiable part of the sound, right? Like I may be playing in unison or in octaves with Al, and the tenors are in harmony above me, but I feel like, because, you know, even though I'm maybe a little bit off of what Al's doing, if I'm with the tenors, the sound of the trombone will sound correct, and then Al's slightly different tone will not be as you know, strident of an error. You know, you're trying to choose between 1% or 2%. You know, which direction am I going to be going? And you try. You know, I was told once that you know, intonation and tone color and things like that are always a compromise. Nobody is an absolutely correct. I mean, except for Joe. I mean, nobody is absolutely correct. You know, and then everybody comes to each other. He's, you know, and for all of Joe's, Joe takes his ribbing pretty well, actually. But well, he's had to sit next to David for 20, 30 years, so
that's for sure. Yeah.
David's given him some thick skin there. But you know, these guys have really accommodate. I mean, I think both Colin and I, when we joined the section, you know, I actually joined in 2012 as like a rental, a 1-year rental, and from the very first day, you know, these legendary players who had like these really intimidating reputations they were all very relaxed and cool about it. I mean, the analogy I give is sort of like Joe has a teacher hat, and he has got his like colleague hat that he wears, you know, and sometimes if he's a teacher, he can be quite intense as the student, and every once in a while he leaves his teacher hat on when we're in section too, but for the most part, it's been a really fun.
How do I respond to that? That's a loaded.
No, you guys are really easy to work together, and I think because you do a good job, and it's so easy to follow. Like, it's very easy to guess where you're going to play.
Yeah. Well, that's well, Colin knows my teaching a little bit. So
A little.
He was in the room there, you know.
Once or twice.
I let it all hang out when I teach, and I don't, when I teach, I don't want to defend the way I teach, because I don't need to, but I just tell the people the truth, you know, and sometimes it gets a bit, you know, honest, but I would rather have them know as soon as possible in their short 4 years of studying. You know, there's a lot of this getting to know one another stuff, which is nice. I mean, I'm the first person to go way out of my way for any student, and you know, but my point is that you only get 4 years, and out of those, each year you get 30 lessons, more or less, and they're hour lessons, and you know, when you think about it, it's not a lot of time,
Right.
to impart your knowledge onto a student. So you got to get right down. I am direct. I am tense, but anyway, I'm not going to apologize.
Yeah, no need to apologize for that.
No, it's shocking. You have 30 lessons. That's one day. You know, it's just, you know, you have not as much time with your students as you'd like, and or if somebody comes to take a one-off lesson with you, they're just there for an hour. You know, you've got to be. I mean, I do think Joe is right. It's just hard sometimes for me to like think of the best way to say it, but when I'm doing my lessons, I feel like a softie a lot of times, but they're they're coming to study with you. They flew and they want to take this one lesson with you. You your job is to tell them if they have way longer to go than they think, or what is really the problem in their playing. It's a
Right.
very difficult thing sometimes to have to.
I gotta ask Colin, for instance, like if you teach a student, right, an hour lesson, and you see that there's a major embouchure problem, do you get it? And you know that's only an hour lesson. Do you talk about that with the student and say what they should do, or George, question for you as well, because sometimes an hour may not be enough, to deal with a major problem like that. And is it best to not say anything, or do you say something?
You know, I tend to say something now in these one-offs. I always preface it by saying, I'm not going to
You
tell
can't.
you right now to
Yeah.
change your embouchure,
Yeah.
but these are some things I think you should think about, because these are some things that I think that are happening that are holding you back. And I think that you should examine this or talk to your teacher about it, or something like that, because I do think that to just, like, if you I've seen teachers that will tell you, oh, your embouchure is all wrong and you play like this, and without any follow-up, that can be worthless, because you don't actually have the time to sort of guide them through the process. So to me, I like, if I see something and it's major, then I feel like I should mention it. I should talk about why I think they should do some things. I could show them some ways that I have worked on it. But I always say that in no way should you necessarily just go and start playing differently. But I'm going to encourage you to start thinking about some things that are going on here, and maybe to start talking to your teacher about these issues.
Yeah.
Because I think that they're holding you back or preventing you from being able to do this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people have very strong opinions about the way the embouchure works, or that they studied with this person who studied with that person, and they're part of a school of playing, or I find I would say that most professional people that I know have very limited success with embouchure fixing. Like that if you're going to be doing, if somebody's got embouchure issues, it's a long road usually. And if somebody's coming in to play for you for once, I mean, if their embouchure looks funny to me and they have really good control generally and they have a good sound, I probably won't even mention anything. If it's not messing with them and their production is pretty consistent up and down the horn, the sound is good. Um, you know, that's not my job in a one time lesson. I might, if I'm with somebody for more time, I might try to get them to work on some studies to develop their sound, which will sort of encourage them to explore some of their embouchure tendencies while they're doing it. But I find that, especially if you've got to be like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I say sometimes you've got to really be willing to tinker with your embouchure a little bit and with your playing, and mess with all of it, and try to figure out how it works. I mean, because we don't see the air, we can't see inside the mouthpiece, we can't see inside your mouth. Despite of whatever cameras they may have been able to do, that's not really, to me, been helpful. Some of those camera shots look kind of gross, actually.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
But like you've got to use everything you can, and with all the technology we have, I mean, certainly any resource you can use. But one of the best pieces of technology you can use is a mirror. If it sounds wrong and it looks wrong at the same time, every time you do this weird lip slur and everything blows out and something, it's probably related. And so just being able to assess visually. I mean, visually is only going to get you so far. I mean, it's going to be led by sound and be reproducible, and just be consistent. So yeah, I think it's a touchy road to go down the embouchure route. especially in a one-off. I would just say, you know, it just seems like it's not operating properly. You know, get somebody trying things differently with buzzing, free buzzing, buzzing with the lead pipe. You know, bending notes. A lot of kids can't bend notes. I found that's surprising. I remember when I was in marching band in high school, that was part of our warm-up routine was to we'd buzz and we would bend notes down a half step or a whole step or something as part of that. And so it was just part of the way I grew up. And so for students to have never tried it, it seems weird to me a little bit that they wouldn't have at least experimented with the possibility. But you know, that was also, you know, everyone has different teachers. So
Yeah. Well, I want to get to a couple other questions real quick. Just, I don't want to keep you guys on here all night, even though I'm sure we could chat forever. First thing, quickly, Colin, what's your pup's name again?
That's
Zoe?
Yep.
Yeah, Zoe. We had a couple of people asking. So next up is just a quick little shout out about equipment stuff. You guys all obviously play Shires. That's why, one of the reasons that we're all here together. But I don't remember, George, Colin, who was first to coming over to Shires? Which one of you?
well, like Joe's gone back to Edwards now, I think. Yeah.
What?
Joe just went back to Edwards. He left.
Yeah, he did.
I mean,
Did you guys come over about the same time? Oh, Joe.
yeah, Joe's got his cat.
Yeah, this was Colin's fault.
Yeah, actually, George and I came to Shires at the same time. You know, there was in Atlanta, there just happened to be like someone coming through town with a lot of horns.
Yeah.
I think it was Newell Sheridan had a lot of horns, and we had a chance to sort of go over and try them. And I remember in that room, George and I were playing, and we're like, okay, there's something about this that we seem to like. So we got a hold of some, and we were going out. I think we were playing Scheherazade or something like that, and a small hall out in Savannah. And we kind of let it rip, maybe more than that hall really should have taken. But it was interesting because for us, you know, we remember talking about it afterwards. It's like, there's just something about this sound, the way that we're doing that reminds me of, you know, this sort of old intensity of some of the old Chicago things. And yet there was this other quality to it that reminded me of the Philharmonic recordings that I had liked, and just generally seemed to fit for us. And then just over the ensuing years, we were tinkering with little parts of the instruments until we landed where we are now.
Yeah, so like you each have artist models. So like, what is it about your individual models? Maybe each of you can just chat a little bit about it that you love or that draws you to it. What makes it stand apart for you? So Colin, like for your model, and it's grown into what it is now, as all three of these models have. What is it that makes you feel like this is it, baby?
You know, it was kind of this, for me, this matchup of you know, the ease of production for me. You know, I love the fact that I can play in the mid-low register and get this really nice warm sound. But if I really want to, I can ping some of the high register stuff with the nice core and like the soft control that I really like. You know, that was to me really important, to have a horn that was versatile enough to have, you know, the ease and color and the loud stuff in the high, but also the ability to get the kind of dolce and soft response that I really like, in addition to being able to sort of fill out the low. So for me, it's like all the way up and down, being able to have that touch and response and ability to really craft the nuances in the note with an ease that I hadn't ever really had before. So that's why I landed on that instrument. And also it was sort of the final evolution when I came to the Philharmonic. There was something, that last little bit of resonance that I really wanted to have in my sound. I was able to find.
We tweaked it after you had made the move to
Mm-hmm.
New York. Yeah, we changed out a few of the components. You
Yeah,
went from an axial to a rotor.
And that's when Steve started chamfering the ports on those rotors. And yeah, that sort of became for me, the step up that I really needed to that sort of that ring and that ping and that bite and that soaring quality that I really felt I needed in order to play with George and Joe and David.
Yeah. And George, what about for you with your model? I remember being in the room for some of like the later iterations of you coming up. I think you had settled on it before I started the company, or just around the same time. But what is it about your model that you dig?
Well, you know, I mean, I came from playing a euphonium actually through a lot of my upbringing and into like I was like 20 something, 22 years old when I finally full on went into bass trombone as my thing. And so I have a sort of different way of blowing my air, and it was for me it was very difficult to get the bite on the sound on the articulation, and also to get the sound to have color. So if I could play a horn and get a really nice immediate response on the sound, it would usually I'd overblow it and it would just be too bright or and that would be a problem. Or I get the sound I'd like and I couldn't get the front on the note, and the way you strike the note rings throughout the sustain of the note. And for me, even from the very beginning, before I had like a model of my own, I felt like I could get a lot of color in the notes that I was never able to get, and even into the valve range, um, and uh, I feel like we were messing with bells, and there's always as a bass trombone player like the tendency to try to go bigger and deeper and heavier, and I feel like the bell has sort of like a taper to it at the outer flare that I think it might be more like a Bach in that way. At least I remember being told that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that it's a two piece, and that the outer flare is allows for more color, but there's a dense core to the sound, which and because there are a lot of times when I have to be able to play pretty sustained, and yet it's still, if you're playing something soft, it can still have good color to it. So I've always liked the dual bore slide, which doesn't help that problem. I've liked the way that it blows and the color, the meat of the sound, the density of the sound, and so I needed something in the bell to sort of balance that out.
Right.
And it's been nice to work. I mean, really nice to work with Shires, because you guys have bent over backwards to me, to help me back when we were in Atlanta, and also now that we're much geographically closer. It's a quick drive up to Boston. Um, yeah, I mean that you guys are really working on trying to develop something that sounds awesome for everybody. So that's been nice. It's really nice thing, and I feel like I'm happy with the setup right now. I mean, I may not be able to play the loudest pedal C on my setup because my own choice. I didn't want to make something that was going to be bottom heavy and not be able to play, you know, tenor clef parts,
Right.
which I have to be able to do both. So it's got to be, you got to have a sort of a happy medium between both the more technical abilities on certain things and also the ability to play up and down.
Hey, George, just really quick. I'm linking for all of you guys some of your websites and activities and CDs and stuff like that. Somebody's saying that your link for your vital signs recording is to CD Baby, but that's not working right now. If they have a question about where to purchase your CD, where should they do that from?
Uh, well, there are a couple different places you can get it. I think that CD Baby just recently changed that. Actually, it may have been March or something, where I think that CD Baby is not distributing their. I mean, I just recently learned this, that they are not distributing their CDs anymore.
Okay.
Right? So if you've used CD Baby, they will help. They'll give you a printing or whatever, but they're not distributing the music anymore.
Is there another website or place for somebody to buy your CD then?
Well, these days I've been just I've been using Amazon and iTunes and a few other places, but I probably should upgrade and get it on the web on the get the website
Yeah.
updated at least. I
Yeah.
wasn't even thinking about that when I learned that, but I'll talk to them. But
We'll get the webmaster stuff going.
yeah.
So, Joe, what about you as the most recent addition to our family?
Yeah, I think the when you look at what I've played over the years, I've gone from a fixed horn to a modular horn, and then back to a fixed horn, and now I'm on a modular horn. And I must say that the modular horn concept of Shires, I really miss that. Um, just because, like Colin was saying, he's been able to go back and tweak a part of his horn, and that's something that you can discover. Your discovery possibilities are greater, I think, when you can isolate what it is in the horn, that instead of just starting over again, or having to take parts apart and so forth. So returning to a modular horn has been a real blessing. And so when I got fitted for a horn, um, we used some things from from previous horns that I've played, but this we added uh, aspects of your technology that I was even unaware of. So that I'm sure that people like Colin and George and other artists over the years have brought to the table. So anyway, when Steve Shires invited me up there, he said, "Why don't you come and try a few horns?" It was an easy decision because I respect Steve so much and what he's done for the instrument making for all throughout the years. So it was a pretty easy choice to come up there and try things, and not to my surprise, I did find something that fit very nicely for myself, and I wanted to take it to the hall immediately and play it with my colleagues, and what we were hearing in your tryout room was even more apparent in the hall.
Yeah.
And so I'm very pleased because it's a nice array of colors that I think I've been missing for a while, and it's on top of the sound. It's just easier to play. George talked about quicker response, and I think Colin said that too. I think that's almost a trademark of these instruments. Everybody says they're quick. They're very quick responding. So anyway, I think that's a real selling point for me, but also just the craftsmanship. The way the instruments put together. It's put together like a very fine car. I mean, a top-notch automobile where all the detail is there. The balance feels great. So it's fun to play an instrument. It's fun to play an instrument again, where all these things help you,
Yeah. Right.
when you play, instead of you fighting against it. So,
Yeah.
and the parts, I mean, I can go in detail about the parts, but all those are on the website.
Yeah, I linked all three of your models on this little chat thing. And if anybody has any questions too, for people who are tuning in, feel free to email us at info@shires.com or just visit our website at shires.com. We have a handy little tab for artist model trombones, so you can pretty easily navigate all of that. But since we're getting to the end of our session, I have one last question. I'd love for you guys to be able to let us know what projects you have going on. Now might be a great time to chat about George, your virtual camp, or we can chat about STS. Joe, you can let us know a little bit more about maybe your Chick Corea thing that you have coming up in the next year or two.
Sure.
Just some of the awesome things that you guys are looking forward to.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, okay. In terms of a long-term project, I mean, we have the Southeast Trombone Symposium, streaming, which you can find at southeasttrombonesymposium.com. I think it's
and we'll be linking some more stuff to that coming up soon too.
So, but another thing, just because we've over the years, I've developed a really great relationship with Columbus State University, and I'm looking into collaborating with a few other larger ensembles. I'm going to be recording a new CD with a number of different groups. We're going to be doing some with band, some with orchestra, something with a brass band. I think I'm going to do something like a Broadway tune with a drum corps.
That's awesome.
So we have I've got a few things that are sort of on the horizon. once some of this stuff settles down, to get another album taken care of that's a little bit more wide-ranging and ambitious than my last one.
Which was also a fantastic album.
Thank
you. Yes. And is Brad going to be your engineer for that?
Yeah, I believe so, especially the stuff that we will do down at Columbus State.
Yeah, okay, cool. Very cool. That's exciting. And just for everybody watching, Southeast Trombone Symposium is an amazing event, whether it's held in person or virtually this year. But there will be more content coming out about SDS, more information. It was just announced just the other day, so we'll be sharing some more of those posts and stuff too. George, what about you? What do you have on the docket?
Well, Colin could correct me about this if he knows it to be different. But I think that you know, we normally have a set number of people for that, but and we're re-inviting people who have already you know, been accepted, and to what was going to be a live version of SDS. But we're going to be down there, and we'll be playing concerts for you. But we were also now going to be able to have, you know, lots of auditors and other people join, and so those are going to be, I think, linked on YouTube or YouTube links. So so those will be, you're not necessarily tied to your computer. You can put it on your big speaker.
Come back to it. Yeah, and view it on the different setups and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a huge perk for, you know, a lot of things that are sort of streaming these days are not always the best audio quality. So it's nice to have such great resources down at Columbus. I'm putting together something for I think it's the second week of July. And I'm gonna have a few guests, semi-confirmed and semi-confirmed. I'm staying. I went to school and did my undergrad at Central Michigan University, and you know, I'm like 95% sure that we'll be doing the seminar. It's just a 3-day thing, which would be nice. Some little boot camp ideas, and I'll be doing a recital and doing some cool pieces on that actually. So you know, all of us have the opportunity to work with composers so often that it's nice to, you know, do things like you know, commissions, but also to get to perform these pieces or do recordings of them. And so there are a couple of cool pieces on there. One of them is an Anthony De Lorenzo piece, which I've been really looking forward to working up. It's a little bit more notes than I was ready to perform in the last STS. But so that's going to be really good. I've been doing Thursday morning warm-ups, online warm-ups. Colin and Joe, you guys can log in on Thursday mornings at 11 if you want to warm up with Nathan Zagantz and I. And we've been pretty much filling up those rooms, which is great. And you know, we're all trying to figure out ways to do things going forward. So that's one of the things I've been really looking forward to. And I think Joe and I are. Joe, I think you're on this too, the online trombone competition committee.
Yes.
She'll be there.
You know probably a little more than I do, but we're going to be meeting. Actually, I think I'm on a live stream on Thursday, 12 Eastern, with Zoltan Kiss and Matthias Veer and a few other people, to give some of the details of that. But I'm looking forward to getting to talk with those guys again. But you're going to be involved with that too, right?
Yes. Actually, I think it's the only trombone competition that I know of, the international type of competition that is taking place. I think the deadline is coming up at the end of this month, maybe June 1st, I believe, somewhere in that area. But it's all online.
Shared a link to it on the Facebook page, so if you guys want to scroll down after you watch this video, you can see a nice little teaser video that the team there had put together that we shared.
Yeah, Vanessa Freilich is also a judge as well.
Yeah.
But I just have. Can I share my screen? I can show you a little bit what's going on with this. Oh, you have to host disabled attendee screen.
Ooh. I don't know if I know how to do that then.
I think you go. Let's see. I don't know how to do it.
Bear with us, guys. Let's see if we can figure this out. I'm like terrified of.
You go to participants, and if you see my name, there's a little
more button
box next to it, and allow to share screen or something like that.
Um,
Maybe. Well, anyway, it's
I don't have that right here. Shoot, I don't have it.
yeah, that's okay. I was gonna show you a little bit of the music that he wrote.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Um, but he wrote right in front of me. I have several, probably 3 or 4 movements. And anyway,
This is Chick
like
Corea.
Chick
Yeah.
Corea
Yeah.
trombone concerto. Yeah.
So maybe we can do a separate video sometime
Oh, that's
to
fine.
talk about the project.
Anyway, but
Yeah.
it's supposed to happen in June, a year from now. So hopefully we'll be back to work by then. And it's possible it could be delayed. It could be delayed to another season. That's when we finally go back online, what programs are going to be
Right.
pushed aside, or what programs are going to be, missed programs we did. Will they prioritize that? Who knows? But
I think
anyway, he wrote.
trombone concertos first.
Yeah,
Oh
well,
wait.
Obviously.
I would think so. But well, he was supposed to open up the season too. He was supposed to do the very first program in September, doing a Mozart piano concerto and etc. So anyway, but in front of me there's a movement called a stroll. It starts out with just trombone by itself, um, and then he's since Chick Corea lived in New York City. He walked up and down town, and he wrote about he wrote the first movement about his experiences along the way through different neighborhoods. And then the recent movement that he sent is a tango. Okay, so it's very cool. There's a lot of percussion. Probably be a smaller orchestra. It won't be a full orchestra. Um, and then the middle movement is called Hysteria, and that's I think I played that on your show last time. And he wrote it during the virus, when the virus started, and it has a lot of chromaticism, and it's kind of bothersome to actually listen to. And I think I mentioned before, my daughter heard it so many times when I first got the music, she went hysterical. So
Very
anyway, yeah. But it's great to work with him, and it's great to make this happen. And then other than that, I'll be appearing in the Blast of Brass. It's a thing in Texas
Oh, nice.
that Keith Meek has organized, that he's done for many years. And other than that, just doing home recording projects here for my Alessi Music Studios, and doing Philharmonic projects too. We were asked to put together um, you know different pieces, and we did a Mahler 2. We attempted to do that.
You
And
played a bolero, I think.
and Bolero.
Yeah, Bolero's great too.
And I think there was something else we had to do recently, right?
So just a quick shout out, if whoever's watching this, make sure you follow New York Philharmonic on Instagram and Facebook, because there's a lot of content that they're putting out, featuring, of course, these fine gentlemen, but other wonderful members of the orchestra. And it's a pretty amazing thing to be able to, even now, still get to see these people performing at an incredibly high degree, even if it's from their homes. So subscribe and check it out on their channels for sure.
I could just say one thing, that when orchestras do get together and we actually play for a real audience again, that's going to be an emotional experience for me.
Yeah.
I remember one emotional experience was playing in North Korea for the North Korean public, and that was just amazing to see people crying in the audience, and we were crying too. Just to be, music just brings people together. And when we have that first concert, it's going to be amazing. And then the other thing that I was thinking about is there's a growing list of orchestral openings in the Union paper. I don't know if you saw that, but it's just getting larger and larger because people are leaving. And when we do come back online, there's going to be auditions left and right, I think.
Yeah. A whole nother topic for another video sometime.
You got to be
Great,
ready.
great excuse to stay in shape and keep working.
Yeah.
Because people are who are about retirement age are like, I'm ready to collect my pension. I'm ready to get my Social Security, and I don't need to try to stay in shape for a year without playing. You know, I think that would be, if I was in that position, I can't blame people, you
Yeah.
know, or people have had their own living situations that they've had to be dealing with. So I think it's a great opportunity right now for any young motivated students to take this quarantine period and just turn it into like a 365-day boot camp. You know, just like I remember being that hungry when I was young, and to be given a shot to just like sit down and really shed all your problems. It's like in some ways there are a lot of silver linings that can come from this.
Yeah. So one last question for you guys. Are who's teaching online lessons now?
Probably everybody.
Yeah, so if anybody who's watching is interested in taking a lesson, I would encourage you to shoot us an email at info@shires.com, and we can help put you in touch with one of our amazing artists. I linked some websites and stuff too, so you can probably go to their individual websites and reach out, but we're always happy to help if somebody has any further questions.
Yeah,
Samantha, do you have city trombone lessons up there?
I do, yeah.
all right. And a word of advice when you do these lessons, you know, put your computer near the router. Okay.
Yeah.
So I taught a lesson this morning, and it was a very nice person who had the lesson, and anyway, she was she was very far away from her her router, right? And so she thought it was, said, "Wow, your screen is freezing when you talk." And I said, "Well, if I don't think it's me because I'm right next to my router right here. I moved actually everything near my router, and if you go to fast.com, fast.com, you can get an instant reading on how fast your megabyte speed is."
I love these tech tips from Joe. This is great.
That's because I had a guy from the from my internet provider came here, and I wanted to make sure that what was happening with my internet. Anyway, I was just too far away from the router, and so now I'm getting 340 megabytes per second download speed,
Decibels.
which is
Decibels.
yeah, decibels. And so anyway, this lady, when she was doing the lesson, it was only 110, and so we had to stop the lesson, and she moved, downstairs, and then we didn't have any problems.
Great point.
If you take a lesson, you got to make sure that you're having the fastest internet that you can. Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. Well, thank you all of you for being on this panel. Thank you to everybody who tuned in for this awesome special edition of Shires TV. We're so grateful to get to work with these incredible musicians as performers and educators, and in terms of their artist models. And it's truly a highlight of my career here at Shires to get to work with each and every one of you. But we have more content coming for Shires TV. We have our regularly scheduled broadcast on Thursday. It's going to be another trombone feature about trombone teaching, specifically earlier teaching, maybe middle school, high school levels, with the wonderful Bobby Guess, Ken Wolf, Tim Reardon, and I'm so sorry that I'm just blanking because I just had it in front of me. Shoot.
Sean Royce?
No, oh, shoot. Why am I'm so silly right now. Yeah, let me pull this up right here. Okay. Thursday, too many sessions coming up. Thursday is going to be...
It's 8 p.m.?
Thursday, 8 p.m. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Of course. It's Don Lucas. Duh.
Don Lucas, yeah.
So Bobby Guest, Don Lucas, Tim Reardon, and Ken Wolf are going to be on our Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So tune back in for that one too. But if you have further questions, feel free to email us at info@shires.com. We should have some news about our factory reopening soon. We're going to have to be cooperating with a phased reopening plan from the state of Massachusetts, but we think we'll be able to start getting some of our craftsmen and craftswomen back in even this week. So we'll have some announcements about that as well. But can't thank you guys enough for being a part of this amazing episode. So thank you.
We thank you and all that you do for us. It's really amazing. The company and all your team. It's really I've never experienced such care and just people who are on top of it. It's an amazing company.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you guys so much. Well, wish you guys all the best. Happy Monday. Have a great start to your week, and happy practicing.
Yes, miss you guys. Miss playing with you guys.
We're playing with you.
Miss you guys too.
Awesome. All right. Have a great night, everybody.
Take care.
All right. Night.
Night.